sports were colossal, squealing needles we before your is the here.
Down. Okay, and weirdly a St. Jude's ad that I didn't want to be played in the background, but it did. And what's up, everybody? This is donate to St. Jude, by the way. It's okay, but in any case, this is me, Francisco, as a Sports Goofs number 171, and I'm joined by my buddy Charles here on the side. And today's gonna be a day, folks. This is gonna be an episode.
Receipts are in the pocket, about to be shown.
Okay, well, it's been a great week for sports on our end, for sure. And it's been a great week for gaming as well. Just a lot of great things happening in the two realms that I enjoy the most. And you know what? I just want to get into it, Charles. I need to start. So I've labeled this episode "The Petty Train to the Sunbelt Bubble." Now, this is a very rare occasion to ride the petty train, because you normally ride it during the NFL season. Mm-hmm. And so week by week we're riding the petty train, trying to make our points and everything like that. But this time we've got a special train. This is headed towards the NFL and the NHL and the NBA playoffs, Charles. And I've been waiting for this one, man. This has been years for me to finally get to this point in my lifetime where I can actually be a bit of an asshole. And have all the things to justify it. So we're gonna get into hockey. I'm the conductor for the stop at the NHL. Charles will get off. We'll get off. We'll be getting off, but in more ways than one. But Charles will be taking care of the NBA side because woo.
A lot of Charles Stradamus is coming true here, and a lot of things that people said I was crazy on, or they said I was just being, a pompous ass. And listen, ladies and gentlemen, I am a pompous ass 24/7. Truthfully,
yes.
But if you guys thought I was bad, a certain man has been waiting for years. He believes that Canada. This is how I'll do your intro. This man who is conductor Frankie over here, Francisco, he believes that in the NAFTA agreement, the NAFTA deals, the NAFTA trade, it's not Mexico that's lacking. He believes it's all Canada because they ain't ish. Take it away, conductor.
All right, so I've been covering hockey in official and unofficial capacities for the last 10 years at least. It's been about a decade now, Charles. Didn't know nothing about the game before. I was introduced really by my brother-in-law.
Didn't have to buy NHL 2001 to get into it.
No, I didn't.
People who needs it.
I didn't. And is that my mic? I think it might be my mic. Or my no, sorry, my headphones are kind of, these are old earbuds that I'm using, and they're kind of creating like a static sound. But if you don't hear it, Charles, then it's my end. Huh?
I don't hear it. You're good.
Okay, so it's my old headphones because my other ones just broke. I'm gonna have to invest in a good pair at some point, just for a good wired pair. Anyways, So, over the course of that time, I learned about the game. I studied the game. I went to go watch the games. Became heavily invested in Florida Panthers. They're the closest team here. My brother-in-law is a Penguins fan. And suddenly, I just became a fan. I was the 2011-2012 season. The Panthers hadn't been to the playoffs in about a decade. So I didn't know that pain that those fans had suffered to. I was already a young adult man at that point. But I was, man, this hockey is awesome. This fervor. I had my first sports heartbreak, man, when the Panthers lost in Game 7 in that first round in overtime. Like, I understood this pain that is hockey and this absolute stress and euphoria at times as well with the sport. But, of course, the Panthers started tanking. They started doing bad. But I was writing about the team, and suddenly I got asked to, start covering the team in an official capacity, which was nice. It was great. I met some great people in the Panthers organization. And they're really nice, and they've been working there for forever now. And, it means a lot to me to see them having some actual good times for once. But there were a lot of bad times, Charles. Panthers were probably bottom of the league in attendance. They had to close off the upper deck because they were not selling them for most of those games. Just inundated with Canadians when Montreal or Toronto stopped by, or those damn dirty New Yorkers, your home people, Charles. When the Rangers came to town, Boston fans coming down here as well, even overrun by people from Pittsburgh, of all places, also overrunning us. But little by little, the team had some of their moments, 2016, but, futility still followed the team as, they lost in the first round. And then, the team across on the wrong side of the state started getting good, started winning championships. Asterisk or not.
He's not here, but I'm gonna fling that mud and be like, what team? Here today, gone tomorrow. What
right.
have you done for me lately? There's one true Florida hockey team, not somebody who navigated the hard cap.
Well, my ire isn't directed to them, but regardless, the Panthers, coming up with that. Go ahead.
Not go against character.
The rivalry, between the Panthers and Lightning finally growing, but it was still. But regardless, the Panthers and their fans kind of went through a lot with people telling the team should move, team should go back to Quebec, or not go back to Quebec, should move to Quebec or Saskatoon or all these other middle of nowhere Canadian places. I know Quebec City is kind of sort of large city, but it's
Nova Scotia.
That's they practice sodomy according to South Park. They or those Newfies. I think those are Newfies. Anyways, and over the time, I've written articles. I've kind of tried to be an advocate for the game. I'm a Latino man, Charles. Hockey isn't really anything that we're it's not in our blood normally.
But ladies, he knows how to use the stick. There, I gave you a shout out. You're good.
Yeah, that is in our blood, but not hockey. Right, that's something I had to adopt that sport.
We got equator climate in every bloodline, essentially, no matter what the ethnicity is here, or geopolitical locations.
But in any case, just trying to show, hey, show my fellow Latinos, hey, this is a fun sport. It's got the elements of soccer, got the elements of the NFL, it's got the elements of basketball. And baseball, it's got a little bit of everything, and except it's freezing, and they got blades for feet, and they're beating the crap out of each other.
Do you tell them it's mostly played by white people that are not Americans, but instead it's the white people that you wouldn't mess with, that that they'll just throw hands on you? Because I think that's a sell for people.
Yeah, what
when most sports are dominated, baseball aside, with predominantly African American or mixed race.
I mean, the white people here are mainly giant burly Canadian men.
Or Russians,
or the nicest human beings in the world off the ice. Or you got Swedes, you got Russians.
Their coaches are not as handsome, But you know,
they accompany all the people that Argentina and all those South American countries wanted to come immigrate to their countries, but they got those dirty Italians instead. Anyways, I've come under fire at times from people. I've called out Canada for certain things that have gone on in Canada. And they're like, oh, we're not racist. We're not elitist. We're not all these things. It's just like evidence on the contrary.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the super petty train right here. This has been a year's preparation of petty.
We're nice. We're all these other things. Like, okay, that's all right. I mean, it's not what I see, but y'all, I'll have my day. And I've been patient, Charles. Panthers have not made this easy.
No.
They finally
was a heartbreaker.
They finally
give some context.
I mean, last year they had the best record in the league for the first time in their history. They made it past the first round for the first time in like 26 years. And then they got their butts handed to them by Tampa, and it was just like it was
bunch of cheaters.
It was just awful, It kind of deflated everything. But then, Bill Zito, I always mix up his name with Barry Zito, the pitcher.
Right.
But Bill Zito, our GM, the man, former lawyer, realized that the legal game was not great, and he left, and he's living the dream like we all aspire to. He decided to, because he put together that 100-something win team with the President's Trophy, all that stuff, and he the Panthers were up against the cap, but he knew that wasn't gonna do. That team was not gonna do. So this man did something that a lot of teams would not have done. He traded Jonathan Huberdeau,
overrated,
and Mackenzie Weegar, basically our second best defenseman and our top points getter from last season. He had NHL records for a right winger for assists and all that stuff. Like he just a historic season for a lot of people. The best offense in hockey in the last 26 years as well. Decided to break that up for Matthew Tkachuk, Charles. And
fantastic.
Matthew Tkachuk, the man.
Seen him in person.
He is. I'm gonna say this already. He is as impactful to the Panthers as getting Jimmy Butler was to the Heat.
Ooh, I mean,
like,
granted,
immediate.
It's a year one focus. Jimmy did a lot in year one.
Immediate.
Until you lose, you might be correct.
Immediate shift. In attitude, in every, like, this man, he is as every bit of a dick on the ice that you would want on your hockey team, but with all the offense to back it up. He's got the swagger, my friend. He's got the swagger. He knows he's good. He knows he's the best on ice. And he ain't going to take no guff for nobody. Just like Jimmy. And so, and he has he's nominated for the MVP award right now. Top 3 right now. In the first season. Jonathan Huberdeau, as much as, Jonathan Huberdeau, great, fantastic. You might have your number retired in Florida. I don't know. Depends.
Where's he at again?
He's in Calgary.
There's no Canadians in this postseason, boys and girls.
So
no Canadian team.
Matthew Tkachuk, who's American-born, by the way. His father's Canadian, but he's American-born. He did everything Jonathan Huberdeau could not. And you look at the numbers. The Panthers won this trade by a mile. And so Panthers go to the playoffs. They barely make the playoffs, Charles. They barely make it here.
We were there when you had lost faith.
I've lost faith. It
happens. Faith is the thing that you're allowed to lose and restore.
I lost. I didn't believe they would make it here, and then lo and behold, I'm popping on the podcast, be like, if they win this, and the Penguins choked. And that was the reason the Panthers are in this position. But they go up against the Boston Bruins, Charles. Boston Bruins. Greatest regular season in the history of hockey. Boston Bruins. 43 points ahead of the Panthers. Panthers lose game 1. I had no expectations, Charles. Panthers win game 2. I'm like, oh, cool. We got the token win, right? All right, that's fine. I'm cool with that. Panthers lose game 3 at home. Just like, yep. Panthers lose game 4 at home. All right, Charles. Let's see. The Heat are playing the Bucks. Panthers win game 5 on the road. It's like, okay, fine. Panthers come back and win game 6 at home. Ho. Suddenly Boston's kind of not looking good, Charles. Then the Panthers, part of the greatest, I can't say it right now, but it might be the greatest postseason game that they've played thus far. Game 7 against the Bruins, and they eliminate the Bruins. And everybody's happy, Charles. And all the rest of the hockey world, nobody likes Boston outside of Boston.
Can confirm.
Nobody likes Boston. Nobody likes the Patriots or the Celtics or the Red Sox or the Bruins. It doesn't matter. So everybody was happy for the Panthers. Good job, Panthers. Everybody was, pat on the back. You know, Boston sports radio imploding. Fantastic. Good on everybody. Then, during that run, Charles, the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? I forgot you. Toronto, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Y'all don't know the Toronto Maple Leafs, also a postseason futility for about. We're going past more than 50 years since they've won a championship. Before there were more than 6 teams in a league. And they consider themselves, Charles, the center of the hockey universe. That is literally what they say about themselves. The people of Toronto, Canada. Not even the capital of Canada, by the way. All right. Charles, are you there?
I'm listening.
Okay,
They're not considered the capital.
right. Sorry.
No, you're good. I'm not zoned
I just
out.
thought we lost connection because I need you to hear this. I need people to hear this. I need people to understand. Like I'm taking a little bit of Stephen A's approach here because he always does this. Nice and calm, and then he starts screaming. So the Toronto Maple Leafs come out. There's some fans. They're out in Maple Leaf Square out in Toronto. It's a nice city and all that stuff, and they're screaming, Charles, "We want Florida."
Yeah, I bet you do. It doesn't snow here.
We want Florida. And, of course, that was mainly aimed at the Boston Bruins and laughing at them. And, of course, hey, let's hope the Panthers knock out the Bruins and we can just kind of knock out the Panthers real quick. Good job, Panthers. Let's just kind of stroll our way into the Eastern Conference Finals, all right? Oh, no, Charles. Things didn't end up the way Toronto and I forgot what they call it. The GTA, that's what they call it there.
What the hell they call the GTA for?
The Greater Toronto Area.
Oh.
That's what they call it.
So that implies the terrible Toronto area. I want to hear more about that.
So, listening to Toronto sports talk and everything, the Leafs are everything to them, Charles. The Leafs are everything to them. The Blue
Jays are overrated.
Well, we'll talk about Aaron Judge a little bit sooner. But regardless, the Blue Jays could win about 1,000 World Series championships. It won't amount to one Stanley Cup for the Toronto Maple Leafs. That is how much they love that team, Charles.
Ooh, Yankees already up 2-0. Speaking of Blue Jays and Yankees.
So,
Toronto going to get double teamed today, buddy.
The center of the hockey universe. Everybody in Canada, I know in the Northeast United States as well. And they always with the jokes, the Panthers should move. Why is there a team in Miami even though they haven't played in Miami in like 20 years? What's going on out there? It's the snowbirds. We take over your arenas whenever we get there. It's cheaper to fly to Florida to watch a game than to watch a game in Toronto. Like, move the team to Quebec, all these other things, Charles, every day. Why? Hockey shouldn't exist if it doesn't snow in an area. The Florida Panthers, Charles, 4-1. A gentleman's
Just like
sweep.
Another South Florida team.
A gentleman's sweep, Charles, of the center of the hockey universe. 4 players making about I think it's like half or like at least 40% of their salary cap, Charles. 4 players taking up their salary cap that much. The Toronto Maple Leafs. You know, the Austin Matthews, Nylander,
Trash.
Marner, and our good old buddy Jonathan Tavares.
Tavares, even I know him.
Yeah,
in my limited capacity.
Pajama Boy, as they call him. Man who lives in Toronto. He grew up as a Maple Leafs fan, then scorned the New York Islanders to go back home. And the Islanders have made it further than the Leafs have as well in that time frame. Just completely disappeared, Charles. Their
This
best
is a sports
players.
show, everybody.
Their best players. But Charles, the Toronto Maple Leafs are the New York Knicks of the NHL. Because, you know, Stephen A. Smith was saying they're the Dallas Cowboys of the NHL. Oh, no, the Dallas Cowboys have done something, Charles, within the last half century. The Toronto Maple Leafs, the New York Knicks, 1973, their last championship. The Toronto Maple Leafs, 1967, Charles. And complete futility since then. Right, in the 90s, the Leafs had constructed some pretty competitive teams and still lost. 2004, that was the last time they made it to the second round, Charles, and still lost. And then just kind of trudging along in NHL purgatory, sometimes making the playoffs. Then, of course, getting absolutely owned by their daddy in Boston year after year. Much like the Knicks get owned by their daddy in Miami year after year. Except the Heat. The Heat actually win championships, unlike the Bruins, who continuously choke as well. You know, just throwing something out to Boston, because you fuckers also... And I say, hey, I said the F word already. Yeah, there we go. Also, kind of, you know, thought a little too much of yourselves.
Drank the Kool-Aid, but you didn't realize it was great value. Right?
So, the NHL world, of course, laughing at the Toronto Maple Leafs, of course. And the Leafs thinking that their path... This is the easiest. This is what they've said. The easiest path for the Leafs to win the Stanley Cup. Boston was taken out. Their big bad daddy was gone. They had beaten the Lightning, who are the defending conference champions for the last 3 years as well. It's the Panthers. The Panthers, you know, whatever. They rode against the Bruins, and that's it. Okay, they face the Bruins, and then they'll face off against whoever they after that, and then they'll win the cup, Charles.
Such an easy path, right?
Oh, fantastic. Oh, we can hold this over the Boston Bruins and the Maple Leafs fans that come down here every year from now on, Charles. That's what it's going to be. That's the beauty of this. But it doesn't stop there, Charles. The train will stay here. The petty train keeps going. Because I've been advocating for hockey and its growth, Charles. The game is a beautiful game, and why wouldn't you want more people to like this sport? But there's just gatekeepers out there, Charles, that don't want people to like this sport. Don't like it when you're a few tones darker in the skin at times as well. And I'm going to call those people out too. All right, or just people who just think, hey, you know, this is our sport. And if that's the case, okay, no hockey, fine. We'll take the Blue Jays away from you. I'm sure you're all going to get mad about that because they're the actually only decent team you guys have left because the Raptors suck too.
Let's not get too crazy here, Francisco.
Decent enough. They're just, you know, decent enough to lose in the wild card game. Let's just say that. There you go. All right, because, you know, Vlad Guerrero Jr. and all those guys keep choking all the time.
Yeah. Plus, also, I'm sure there's going to be a drug test that takes him out, so it's all right.
You know, and Vlad Guerrero Jr. is actually a Canadian, by the way, so he ain't escaping from this either.
Yes.
You know, he was born in Montreal. Come on now. Anyways, so I've been called out. I've been told, and I advocate for these. And the Canadians have lost their mind on Twitter, Charles, and it's fantastic. The salt, the tears, just licking those up, right? Just telling people go watch the Blue Jays because that's in itself an insult. And I'm a Marlins fan, by the way. And the Marlins have won a championship more recently than the Blue Jays. Y'all had 2 seasons. That was it. And then you continuously choked after that. Anyways, it didn't stop there, Charles, because there were other series in the NHL going on. I support the other teams. The Lightning, I'm not that fond of, but I don't mind the other teams that encompass the Sunbelt, as they call it. The Los Angeles Kings, the Dallas Stars, the Vegas Golden Knights, the Carolina Hurricanes, the Nashville Predators, bunch of those teams. In fact, I look forward to the playoffs every year, even if the Panthers are not in it, to see how many teams from Canada, and it's specifically aimed at Canada, by the way, right? And how many teams from the Sunbelt remain in the playoffs. So, yeah, there are 7, I think, yeah, there's 7 Canadian NHL teams, and around the same number for the Sunbelt teams. You know how many remain, Charles? You know how many Canadian teams remain in the NHL playoffs right now?
I got this. Is it as many Stanley Cup wins that the Maple Leafs have had in the last several years? 0?
Oh, is it as many Stanley Cup wins that any Canadian franchise has had in the last 30 years, Charles?
Would that be 0?
Yeah. Whoa. Yes, indeed, 0. The Edmonton Oilers were recently eliminated by the Vegas Golden Knights, a team that
Connor McDavid. Look, I know
Connor
names,
McDavid
guys.
and Leon Draisaitl, Charles. They had a historic power play that hit on 34% of their power plays, Charles. Probably the greatest Oilers team since the 80s when Wayne Gretzky was there. And they lose to the Vegas Golden Knights. The Dallas Stars just eliminated the Seattle Kraken. I don't have nothing against Seattle. They're a brand new team, whatever.
I was watching it.
But regardless, it was a good game, right? And a good series. Went to 7 games. The Dallas Stars now. The Western Conference Finals, the Dallas Stars versus the Vegas Golden Knights. The Eastern Conference Finals, the Carolina Hurricanes eliminated the New Jersey Devils, and we have Carolina versus Florida. We have an all Sunbelt conference finals on both ends, Charles, for the first time ever in NHL history, and Canadians have lost their frickin' minds, and I am here for it. I am absolutely here for it. This has been a long time coming. This has been a comeuppance for the entire country of Canada. And they'll say, Charles, oh, most of your players are comprised of Canadians anyways. No, y'all don't care. That's only for like the Olympics and things like that. No. These guys, they come down here, they enjoy it, they marry the American ladies and all these other things like that. Matthew Tkachuk has some croquetas, Charles.
Yeah.
Right?
They're afraid of what's the inevitable, and then 5-10 years, the new pro player is going to be saying, "My favorite kind of meat's not poutine, but chicken and waffles, baby." With some crawfish. That Southern comfort in a North American sport.
Yes.
Be afraid.
More and more kids signing up, all these other things. They're just afraid, Charles, because that, in the end, because more and more American kids wanting to become hockey fans, wanting to learn hockey fans, they'll grow up to be great hockey players, like a certain Matthew Tkachuk, whose dad was a hockey player, was a great hockey player in his time, Canadian, has 2 sons, both Americans, play for Team USA, Charles. This is all a ploy because eventually those American teams will have better talent than Canada, and Canada will lose the only thing that they're ever good at. And that's what they're afraid of, Charles. They're fearing irrelevance. That's what they're really afraid of. And I'm here for it. Y'all brought this on yourself. You guys could have been welcoming. It could have been like any other sport. Baseball and basketball and football. There's no discourse as to whether a team belongs in Mexico City or London, or a team belongs in Puerto Rico, or all these other places that these other sports want to spread to. No, there is not. Heck, I'd like to see Montreal get another baseball team back. Sure. But I don't know, y'all kind of dicks with regards to the hockey thing, man. I've seen through the facade, Charles. All right, the South Park episodes are true as to what the Canadians are about. Okay,
Blame Canada.
so to the entire country of Canada. Y'all should just be sent adrift into the Hudson Bay and be done with it. This is it. This is great.
You committed murder right there. May I
I'm not your friend, buddy. I'm not your buddy
guy.
I'm not your guy friend. This postseason, I'm not any of those, Charles, for Canada. All right. We're at 31 minutes, Charles. The petty train has left the NHL station. I could have this is catharsis for me, Charles. This is great. I've been wanting this for a long, long time.
I'm gonna give you my petty train pit stop of hockey from what I observed.
Go ahead. Yeah,
you're
relatively new to this, and
newish, but not really.
You're from New York, but you didn't get into it, all that stuff. But yeah.
NHL 2K24, or not? Is that 2K24? I'm sorry, NHL 24 from EA when they make it. Maybe will change me, but I do try my best. I have gone to Panthers games with you. I have watched during the playoffs to kind of come into it to get the idea of the bases. I know the names I need to know. It's been interesting of viewing, but it's always fun because for you to have that duality of being both a Panthers fan and a Heat fan and seeing it's like best day ever. I still remember that text that you sent me like Friday. This is everything, or tonight is everything. And this is the comment I'll make to a lot of teams about sports itself, for hockey at least. This is really good for the expansion to get people interested. One for South Florida, because you got to think this is the model consistency. Last year, you're the 1 seed. This year, you're in the Eastern Conference Finals, regardless if you win or not. Doesn't matter if you're trying to get a market because he's not on the show right now, but I'm still going to take my shots at the Lightning, not to be a dick, but it's the locale and location of that area of Florida that's not enticing to a bunch of people, right? Central Florida has a very split way of their I don't want to say clientele, I'm on the business mindset of their fan bases, because it's the Tampa Bay Bucks and the Tampa Bay Lightning. And right now the Buccaneers are in that crash control, and the Lightning are kind of in crash control because this is what you rue when you can't go against the hard cap. Other sports don't elevate you because Orlando is not Tampa. I understood the whole, y'all have heard for 5 years, Orlando, it's not a real thing.
Yeah.
It's not a real thing. Counties away, bud. Two different locales coming into it. So this gives an opportunity for South Florida that has a winning culture, because what does South Florida have to stand? Multiple NBA championships. For the NFL side of it, the only perfect season with the Miami Dolphins, and then their multiple it's 3 rings in Miami, if I'm not mistaken.
The Dolphins only have 2.
Two is the second one. And I met Pat Pepler, who was on that staff. He showed me. I saw the actual legitimate rings that they gave him. It was great. So it's just the 17-0, and then the one that they went like 13-2 or something like that. And then you have University of Miami being relevant for a certain degree to win championships. So this is actually very beneficial. Final Four this year. So it's actually very
baseball's pretty good.
Yeah, because if you're talking about getting casuals, you can leap over casuals when the entire section locale, even FAU constitutes as a possibility. So this is really good to get people in there, because you're trying to get the young people. Because I think when you're casual adults, you already know what you're going to watch or not watch. The people who are going to have the litmus test of, all right, let me go watch this and go from there. But I'm talking about the 15, the 17, the 18s, talking about the teenagers. I'm talking about everybody else in between. That's all a good possibility to get them involved. So for hockey, this is beneficial. And there's names, to Tkachuk, I can never say his name correctly, but for Tkachuk to be worth the investment, people want to get behind it because he's younger. He's doing good. He's something that's marketable and likable. It's not as if he was a big free agent signing that pooped the bed, which happens in all sports. Remember, it's supposed to be that one guy is supposed to help change your franchise, push over, maybe like a certain Philadelphia team.
I mean, hockey rarely gets guys that can completely change the face of a franchise. In this, Panthers, immediately. Because Barkov was a draft pick, all these Ekblad, those guys, but they had to cobble that core together, and they still needed to go through their growing pains and stuff like that. But you can never devalue a fantastic trade for just a guy, like this is a hockey player, you know, or just like any other sport, like this is a baseball player, this is a basketball player. Like when we got Jimmy from Miami, it's like that's a basketball player, you know. And like heck, even the Marlins, we got Starling Marte for like 2 halves of separate seasons, you know, and like he's a baseball player, man. That's a real guy. You know, this isn't a guy who, you know, oh, he needs to change the scenery, you know, or just a guy who, you know, he could give us, you know, some a good outing or two every once in a while.
That you were terrible at a period. That's what I never understood about people.
Yeah, or just oh, you know, he might not be washed just yet. Like, nah. We got a guy who's 24 years old. We extended him for 8 years. Like, this is the guy, and he's the guy, Charles. He's the guy. This is his team now. Like they don't play like that. They don't have this attitude with Jonathan Huberdeau on the team. Like this is it, and that is marketable, Charles. That is gonna get people to want to go to games. That is gonna entice people because the Panthers, they've been working real hard. I told you I've been covering this team for like at least 10 years now. And it's been a long struggle, a long time to get people to trust this franchise again. They went through a decade of no playoffs, an entire decade where they in a league that half the teams make the playoffs in.
That's tough,
right? Like how there's like
Ali Jokinen was your
that's a name.
Roberto Luongo.
Yeah,
I did a lot of hockey in high school, man. Remember $15 Panther tickets?
Yeah,
when you were Miami subs.
Jokinen and those were the guys, and the Panthers couldn't put anybody around. Those teams were terrible. You know that was the whole thing there. The team couldn't spend or didn't want to spend. They were cheap. They played out in Sunrise and all these other they just were not fun at all. Just not a fun team to watch and lo and behold, they every time they got veterans, they would just be guys who were washed, guys who just wanted to, ride to the sunset, and
they want to go to Bahama Breeze.
Exactly, go to Bahama Breeze. Get a DUI on South Beach like Ed Belfour. So Hockey Hall of Fame goaltender, but he was washed, and he was just like, So like that's what we had back then. That was a long time, and then the tank. The team tanked. It was called the blueprint. The Sixers had the process. The Panthers had the blueprint, Charles. That's what they called it. But unlike the Sixers, the Panthers actually made it past the second round now. So it's been a long time. This has been great, Charles. But we're at 38 minutes, and I want the train to head to the next stop, Charles.
I'm putting this game on pause. Where do you want me to start? Because you got to remember, my penny train started technically Thursday or Friday.
Yeah, so we had we
could do this as a joint. But we could do it together at NBA.
Well, you introduced me with the hockey thing. So last week we had our victory lap after the New York Knicks and stuff like that. It was just not a basketball team. That's not a basketball team. They're all there thinking Brunson and Randall are actual guys.
They think that not having Isaiah Quickly was the end of their season.
Yeah. RJ Barrett, he just needs to grow a little bit more. Okay. It's just like that's not a basketball team, right? So that was fine. That was cool. We had our fun, but I think there's another series, Charles. Another series. Actually, no. This is actually something that you called last week, that you had said when we were talking about this. You're like, Francisco, this is what I want. I want Boston. And you know why I want Boston? I want a repeat of the bubble. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, we've got the Celtics and the Heat. We've got the Lakers and the Nuggets. We have returned to the bubble, Charles.
I don't believe in time travel, but I believe I'm revisiting parts of my life that have importance. Call that girl. Call
Tears
that
of
guy.
the Kingdom. There's some time travel.
Right? Call that girl. Call that guy. Have that second chance. Quantum leap this ish, even though it's really multi-dimensional, life changing. Doctor Who for the people who like that stuff. relive the NBA bubble 2020. This is what I wanted. This is what I needed. Because to reiterate what I had said is, I said, what's so special about the Bucks? I was scared of Giannis. I'm not going to lie about that. But people for a whole season, we're saying the Bucks are just a well team with good depth. But really, were they? When you actually looked at who was on that depth chart, coming into everything, and it didn't work out. And you had guys who really had hit their ceilings coming down quickly. Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton's come back from injury, but Chris has been around for a bit. Brooke Lopez, any team that has Grayson Allen being their lead guy off the rotation, I'm not too scared about. I'm just saying. Pat Connaughton, am I supposed to be kind of scared of that? So I was like, I have to believe. I did not expect it. I mean, we sacrificed the hand of Tyler Hero just as Link's hand has been sacrificed. If you guys have not played Tears of the Kingdom, I can't review it yet. It's not going to be one of those things where I finish it to review it because we know that's going to take too long. But that's a little bit of hint you see in the trailers. But Tyler Hero's basically being Link right now with the busted hand, the busted right hand, right? But am I supposed to be scared of Myers Leonard, Heat defector, Mr. I don't know that K word, bro? You know. Am I supposed to be afraid of Joe Ingles, who got shipped out? Bobby Portis, I respect. He put a frustration on Bam. I'm not going to talk trash about him. Grayson Allen, Drew Holiday, who's on the back nine. Am I supposed to be scared of Wesley Matthews? He's still playing. I'm sorry. Goran, Jimmy was extra pissed that fact was Goran was there. But I wasn't scared of that. So when we beat them, it felt good. It was just surprising. Everything was just surprising. And then we got the Knicks. Julius Randle laid an egg. Tom Thibodeau was losing follicles of hair by the quarter. RJ Barrett, okay. How are you a fourth pick in the draft? I understand he has This is year 3 going on year 4, I think. Yeah, and I understand that he had a good postseason showing, but it goes back to the Chicago Bulls player right now because my brain just froze. But I always use him as a litmus test. Zach LaVine. If you're the only primary ball handler and scorer, you're going to get jacked up points. It's just true. Basketball really is a team sport. I know it annoys people when I say that because you see great players and superstars leave, but that's for the exceptional people. The LeBrons going to the finals, the Allen Iversons going to the finals when you're a singular guy. Yeah. A singular guy. So with the Knicks, because once we got past the Bucks, did I ever say I'm scared of the Knicks? No. Those sounds are fire Eric Spoelstra, how could you do this dress? But we took them for the one. I wanted Boston because Boston objectively, even though the Bucks finished out the beginning of the season or the end of the season on top, Milwaukee finished out top. Boston was just interesting to people, right? They traded for former Pacers guy whose name escapes me right now to be their 6-man rotation, which was just a good. I'm bringing up that roster, a good pickup coming into it. And then they got Joe Mazzulla after they got rid of Malcolm Brogdon, after they got rid of Ime Udoka for having an affair. How do you cheat on Nia Long? I don't understand. And here's the thing, man. You know what I want to hear, Francisco? Oh no, of course I'm gonna put on mute as I can talk more, because you don't understand the collective power of the Miami Heat and the Miami Heat fan base with basically D-League players or G-League players, and then followed by Jimmy Butler. Once we are there, once it is around, once we feel like there's nothing that's going to stop us. And what did I say last week we were playing with, buddy? House money. And you know what I'm hearing at the end of every house game? Peppas in the background. Just hearing it. And we are going to let Peppas guide us. It's talking about taking pills and partying. It's not something that Miami does, right? But, Jimmy just his big cat coffee. But it feels so good. And do I think we could beat Boston? Absolutely. Are we going to beat Boston? We'll see. But already DraftKings, all that stuff, low betting. Well, you know what? Don't handle my money because guess who's gassed that they're playing a 7-game series? Boston. Guess who can defeat just Joel Embiid by himself, or they had to come back to beat Joel Embiid by himself? Boston. You already have a handicap of no Tyler Hero, a busted-up ankle of Jimmy Butler, a Kyle Lowry that's going to have probably trauma for being in a Toronto's Raptor team that couldn't go past the Eastern Conference Finals for so many years until he realized they had to get Kawhi for it. And then you have to also just deal with the fact that our shooter's probably not going to shoot. Can you handle that, Boston? Am I supposed to be scared of Jaylen Brown? Yeah, I'll give Jaylen his respect. Am I supposed to be afraid of Jason Tatum after, on the game that they had to come back from? He only scored like 13 points in the quarter to come back when they had to go to OT against Philly. I don't know, man. Derek White, Grant Williams. I remember saying how mad I was last year that we were just getting eaten up. But guess what, guys? It's not the same players on this team because we're just putting dudes out. Gabe Vincent, hey, what's up, man? Let's see what you got now. More spare time. Caleb Martin, hey, man, what's up? Let's see what you can have more time. Yeah. Hayward Highsmith might get some love because we have nothing to lose because we're playing with house money. It's not even Russian roulette where you hope that the bullet doesn't hit you because what's the game of Russian roulette? One bullet in the revolver, five empty shots. Maybe it's one. Us, it's more like I'm probably going to lose this next hand. I have no money to keep into the game. And you know what? It's the balls because we have also the smartest coach in the NBA who gets no respect. A employed coach. Don't worry, the petty train's got choo on for that portion. I just have to give you my Heat love. Does Joe Mazzulla, who is really just promoted in the very beginning of the season as an interim, does he have the wits to beat a man like Spoelstra, who just basically said, fuck it, we'll do it live? That's essentially what he did. That's what he did. Eric Spoelstra this season, if I had to one line.
People in Boston are already worried about Mazzulla, with this, right?
I'm going to say this right now, that fan base is not loyal to coaches. Nope. Players, sure, but not loyal to coaches. There's only one coach they're loyal to, and that's Bill. And they're already sick of him.
I don't even say they're loyal to players either, to be honest.
I mean, if you were willing to keep Paul Pierce in your organization, fine, right? That's the one condition, because I don't know Paul. Ooh, this is a hot take.
No, Boston likes guys like Paul Pierce and Brad Marchand. They like guys like that. That's a whole different thing.
That's being loyal. Can I be inflammatory about Paul Pierce for a second?
We can always be inflammatory about Paul Pierce, who thinks he had a better career than Dwayne Wade.
This goes back to what I was saying. It's of course they're going to rally around a guy who I think wouldn't have any central relevance if he went to any other team. He did not have the seismic effect if he was traded to another team the way that Kevin Garnett Allen was. Remember, he needed them. They didn't really need him. I'm saying it like that.
That's true.
Very relevant to
the NBA. Those. I mean, he was on those Celtics teams, and he was only the guy because that's how bad
the Zach LaVine logic. It all comes together. Trust me. Let me tell you about Paul Pierce, kids. You know how David Stern vetoed to trade Chris Paul to Lakers?
I almost wish that happened now because Lakers would have choked every year.
But let's just imagine if you switched Paul Pierce out, they would have approved it without hesitation. That's the kind of guy he was. And he didn't poop himself. Chris Paul didn't poop himself. But back on the thing, can Joe Mazzulla, who's figuring it all out, outcoach this man who literally had to look at dudes who are like, you're undrafted, you were in G League, you were undrafted. He knows the parts to put in. He knows square pegs are square pegs. Spo is so intelligent as a coach where, unlike other coaches in this postseason, it's definitely going there, guys. This is a sports show, who had to make adjustments to say, we got to try something. Spo's going to know, okay, you're a square, but what kind of square are you? Are you a rectangle or are you a square? Are you isosceles? Are you an 8-sided? What's going on here? What kind of triangle are you? Are you 90-degree triangle, 45-degree triangles, all this weird geometric stuff that you guys understand. I don't need to go in depth on because I'm being facetious. That intelligence matters, because the other thing I want you to go on in the West, because I want the Lakers, I might regret that. I mean, Denver kind of looks, Jokic should have been the MVP. That was my contention last several weeks, because look at how he has vested everything in postseason. I'm like, but y'all not wanting a three-peat, y'all not wanting a European, and y'all maybe not wanting to say a center is better than a certain Michael Jordan, which my position on that. I won't even go into the racism ideology. I think players who are in the game respect each other like that. Twitters, y'all are soft as, Dollar Tree tissue people. I think that's more where the racism is, because it takes a lot for me to defend Kendrick Perkins, but there's some stuff that I read. They're like, oh, you just don't like him as a white guy. I'm like, is it that though? Because really, when you see players doing the analysis, this is one thing I love about basketball players in comparison when they're comparing current guys to past guys instead of the football and baseball guys. They're legitimately comparing it with the greats at that time in that era. So the whole thing was like, is Jokic really better than Shaq? Is he really better than Barkley? Is he really better than all these other centers, Kareem and give me more minutes, Bill Russell? I get that logic a little bit because that's how you had to grew to aspire. For the modern era, you say yes. The side note on that is we have to stop comparing eras to eras. We have to just acknowledge what the game is. But I don't want to get off track too much. But you have all these inexperienced coaches. Mike Malone over Denver is a very established coach. But he had some nonsense in Sacramento for so long before he was mercifully fired by Vlade over the Divac to go to Denver. Spo has more coaching experience in the regular season, postseason, with superstars, with no superstars, with nothing. And I think that's so invaluable compared to what Darvin Ham has to do come crunch time in his first year. Being an assistant coach for the Bucks is fantastic, sure, but you don't have the same players that you did to trust it. You have to learn. You have to learn how you deal with LeBron. You have to learn how you deal with Davis. You have to learn how you deal with Russell, who you got in the middle of the season, right? And the same thing's going to apply to Missoula, because I think that's kind of what that's a little bit difference of Ime Udoka. And then what I saw of Missoula is like Tatum do something, Jaylen Brown doing something. Well, I remember last year, Derek White was in our chili. I remember last year Grant Williams was in our chili, making some threes. Robert Williams was putting some stuff in. Y'all ain't gonna do it for so that is my petty to why Pepas is going to be playing in Boston, baby. They're going to be like, what is this music? Is this Celia Cruz? That's going to be what's happening when we win out in Boston. I hope we close out Boston, not Miami. They'd be like, oh, she's famous, right? She's the one with the hair? That's literally... Is this Santana? I'm sorry. Is this Santana's new song? Where to get you? Where to get you? The hardest thing come out of Boston music's House of Pain. I don't even know if they're Irish, right?
Oh, man. I am so glad we beat the Bruins for that reason alone. We don't have to hear that. Sheesh, man.
Pack it up.
Every single that and what the other one. The one that sounds like, it's all
Celtic. Up to Boston.
Yeah. No.
Kick Murphys.
Yeah, okay. Either one. There's two songs. I'm shipping
which
off
people only knew was famous because y'all saw The Departed, directed by.
So there's two songs that they use for Boston, and that's it, because that's all they have.
Boston. Yeah, we got Pepas, man. Don't play with us on that one. We'll die by Pepas. We'll live by Pepas.
Yeah, even was it Seven Nation Army? That's ours. That's the Heat.
Yeah. Everybody steals Seven Nation Army. I'm like, I actually.
Yeah, but the Heat, that's who it really belongs to.
Yeah. So on to the other points of petty. There's been a lot of firings in the NBA. And a lot of Charles is right about those firings that we're building up.
And we had talked about Budenholzer when that happened.
Yeah, and I'm going to structurally attack it each way because there was 3 position changes. Mike Budenholzer, who the Heat, got dropped wrongfully. So I think out of all the coaches, he should have been saved. And I'll hold that for a second. Monty Williams got fired after delivering back-to-back elimination game blowouts. No motivation. And I understand, and we're going to talk about that too, and we're going to understand that Phoenix had no Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton. I understand that, but, coaches coach up. Well, let me talk about those 2 firings before I get to the big one, the ultimate petty. Because how many times, spoiler alert, kids, how many times have I talked about that man that got fired today? I have dedicated segments to him. He is a mathematical equation. The Zach LaVine effect, the Doc Rivers equation of coaching is always talked about by me. But I'm Budenholzer. Very good coach. Coached badly in this series. I would not have fired him because of what you have.
I still think there were personal things that kind of clouded his stuff. So,
But that's unfortunate. They're that insensitive over in Milwaukee, who is not known for being. You remember, he helped you become relevant because you had Jason Kidd.
Yikes!
And then you had to switch to him.
Yeah, and they hadn't been relevant since Ray Allen was there. They had that 1 year. That was it.
They were a cup of coffee. No, because they went for Monte Ellis. There was like a 2-year period.
Michael Redd and
we're giving you guys players we can remember forget, but that's how integrated we are with certain things in basketball. But I don't agree with it. I think he could take the year off, and I think you'll find him. He is a perfect plug and play for that veteran kind of team. Right now, they're not there per se, as they're trying to figure each other out. Because right now the whole wave is just hiring the young guys. I don't think he's going to you could probably put him in Toronto if you want to, but I think Ujiri Masai has a particular set of a coach that he wants. That's somebody who's going to be there for the rebuild.
I thought you were going to say skills.
Yeah,
I thought it was a taken reference.
Yeah. Well, Budenholzer is the least intimidating human being, so I can't even like put him in comparison. He had to grow a beard to be intimidating, but there is potential for him like next year. Monty Williams, who everybody talks about not being in fair shake. Well, let's take a look at Monty Williams' history. Average in New Orleans, 1 playoff appearance, if I remember correctly, if I'm not wrong. Had some talent that kind of came in there, left off a little bit, came back. And then he goes to this Phoenix team developed by, he loved James Jones as a GM, former player turned GM, who basically hit on certain draft picks, position around, didn't do anything with them.
So,
hear me out.
He made the playoffs twice with the New Orleans. Whatever they were called by then. Yeah,
New Orleans team. That's what we'll call them. Went on to certain sides of it, but Phoenix in that first year didn't get much. They went for Chris Paul, and that's when to win the finals. That's why we love Milwaukee for helping us out, because that's when I was like, no, I can't have this whole thing just plug and play guys. Last year they got busted up. They got busted up on like Pornhub on Mother's Day with the whole subscription just shut down, kids. That was that bad to get blown up by 30 points against Luka Doncic and just Luka Doncic. There was nobody else of relevance. Sorry, Tim Hardaway Jr. There was no one of relevance on that team. And then this time they had a struggle to go against the Lakers, which I think there's a common rule in the NBA. We hate LeBron. I don't hate LeBron. I fucking love the guy. I think he is better than Jordan. I said it. But for the casual fan base, and also I think in ownership, literally in ownership, the belief is we hate LeBron and we hate the Lakers. We can't have the second most notorious franchise in the NBA, coming into stuff. And granted, they might be the most, I know the Celtics have won the most, I believe, or is it tied now? Celtics and Lakers.
I think the Celtics still have like one more.
Well, the Celtics have not
like
won
18 to 17 or something.
2007.
8. Yeah.
So, even the bubble title, listen, any other team that won it would claim the bubble title. That's my mentality. We would have done it too. That's why I always joke, but the reverse of how we deflect it is like, if we're the best bubble team, but we lost, they won it. They're the best bubble team. But the whole thing is like, there's the whole F LeBron mindset and there's the F Lakers mindset. So you can't deliver. And I understand that Aiden and I understand that Paul were injured. Well, you knew Chris Paul was going to be injured anyway. That's a commonality. You put Cam Payne there, you should have seen he was making certain adjustments trying to put guys in, but you lost by 30 points. And it was very split amongst my basketball friends who were like, I wouldn't have fired him. I'm like, I would have, because obviously there's a point where you can't kind of coach the rest of your depth. They kind of like, don't do this. You have to have some kind of, you can't rely on the single 1 or 2 man game. And that's what you have noticed with certain coaches, where they just rest on the laurels on who they think the stars are.
Honestly, I'll tell you this. And this is we haven't got to Doc.
Oh, yeah.
I will say that I said this one thing about Doc Rivers that I think is probably the only positive that you could say. When he doesn't have stars on his team, he can actually coach up some guys. But he can give you some spurts with some surprises. It was the final Clippers team that he had, and his time in Orlando. Really, that's really the only point. But you give him some stars and stuff like that, and I don't know, man.
Just becomes so reliant.
Yeah, he becomes way too reliant on it. He can't coach up the rest of the depth, and you could say even like the Celtics teams. I mean, they for the most part kept those teams together.
Series, man.
They kept those teams together. It wasn't like guys were lopping off. No, it was still Garnett, Allen, and Pierce, and then you still had Rajon. You had Glenn Big Baby Davis still.
And that's why I disagree with you about your statement, because the man has gone so long without having just general players.
I think he just hit the reset button in his career, but at this point, I don't know. He should just retire. Just end it.
I mean, but he's
and we're not there yet. Sorry, I jumped ahead.
No, you're fine to go on to it. He's the quicker fixer-upper bounty kind of coach. But then we're going to get into Monty. Is like, I get it. And the problem is like, you left it to everything to be, you were hamstrung by,
I will say, yeah,
go ahead.
I will say, looking at Monty's career as a coach, New Orleans, that's not a really fun situation.
Especially at that time when they were going cheap.
Yeah. And they were kind of in limbo as to ownership and stuff like that.
Chris Paul got hurt. Yeah. And then that changed a lot, I think, if memory serves me correctly.
Well, no, he was there before. No, he was after the Chris Paul fallout. After
I think
LA.
Was he?
Yeah.
Hold on. No, wait, because I think he went one.
Unless he had the one season
It was 2010, 2011.
2010, 2011. So that might have been the one season he had Chris Paul with him. But either way, then he, was then, they had Anthony Davis after that.
No, because I think they played together because that's what Monty came to Phoenix, and they're like, yeah. But,
either way.
As you state your opinion, I'm going to check
Either
this.
way.
Look, there was a Chris Paul era, 2005, 2011.
Okay. All right. So either way, I think he's getting there as a coach at this point. Like he's seen kind of both ends of this, and what you can do with one guy and things like that. Okay, and then now with Phoenix, when you can have like 2 or 3 guys, he'll get a shot someplace else for sure. But
NBA is big on recidivism.
I think, yeah. Well, and I think he'll improve as a coach because he improved with Phoenix. You can't say that he didn't improve as a coach. Given the circumstances and everything like that. Just that, hey, he just didn't work. He couldn't get anything more. He couldn't. He blew it in the finals last year with all those guys, and it just they had a 2-0 lead. I mean, they had a 2-0 lead. What else can you do?
Yeah, and the bigger issue is, remember, they have new ownership. So Ishiba,
that is true as well.
He wasn't his hire.
That's true.
It wasn't his guy.
Yeah. All right.
And then now it's time, though, because out of all the things, even though I joke that Thibodeau is always going to get fired because it's just Miami Heat strike like that, Doc Rivers is gone, as announced today, as his team lost a 7-game series after leading like 3-1.
This isn't really just a Doc Rivers thing. This should be like a whole Sixers thing.
This is, the petty be coming, because I still feel Brett Brown was the sacrificial lamb to everything. Not that I'm a big... Because why this? I'm gonna bring my hate to twofold: Sixers and Doc, right? And I don't hate Doc, but I'm bringing the Sixers heat. When it comes to Sixers, I think the process is the most egregious thing that you could have done to a fan base, because you were purposely tanking and you went 10 long years process. We had Michael Carter-Williams that didn't amount to anything. That you had the drafting. Terrible drafting. We had the other point guard who is now over in Orlando, who had like a busted up shoulder or something like that. His name will come back to me. Where you had like
Markelle
Frank Korkmaz. Yeah, Markelle Fultz. We have Frank Korkmaz, who wasn't doing anything. All these people. Yeah, Ben Simmons, who I told you guys don't give him the extension, man. I think he had the best ability to be like a good 6th man with the way he kind of facilitates, but he wasn't started. He reminded me a lot of the Dr. Andre whatever his name is, because we talked about him before, but it's been a minute and I don't plan my segments like I used to. Who was famous when he was over in the Denver Nuggets. Andre starts with an M. Is his last name. It's gonna come back to me. The Doctor.
What are you talking about? A player?
Yeah, like a player
with the Sixers.
No, with the Nuggets.
With the Nuggets.
Yeah, it's gonna come back to me. Andre Iguodala. Andre Miller. All right. Whew.
Okay.
I knew I didn't go crazy. I didn't go crazy with Andre Miller. There's a guy who didn't have like much of a jump shot, but he was able to kind of.
Ooh, that's himself. I remember to forget. Oh crap.
Yeah, I liked watching him though. It's weird. I have knowledge of basketball that doesn't escape me, and it's creepy sometimes.
He's the only player with 16,000 career points, 8,000 assists, 1,500 steals without making an All-Star game. Then, all right.
Yeah, like so he has some fundamentals to him that kind of came in. So anywho. But the whole thing was trust in this process that didn't work, that didn't get you anything. You get to the Eastern Conference final one time, you fire Brett Brown for being the scapegoat, you hire Doc Rivers, and and the whole thing is like, y'all did all that. It felt like Thanos in Infinity War when everybody was ganging up on him, and he says all that for a drop of blood. That's how I felt about the Sixers, and I'm still not over that, because until you show me that the process was worth it, because you got to remember something. The salary cap is pretty affordable for teams in the NBA. Now it's getting kind of ridiculous, but it's still not on the NFL level when you're looking at what they're doing. And it's not as if that, unless your name is Michael Jordan, almost majority of those team owners are billionaires or conglomerates that own multiple things. So my pity well is awfully dry if you're saying we're trying to prevent expenditures and bleeding out cash. No. That's not how it works. You guys have a lot of money. That's why I don't blame Matty Sheba for being out. But whatever, Philly, I think it's a conglomerate. It's not one single owner. They were just impatient, and they had Daryl Morey, who you guys should have known was a problem, because he was the one who orchestrated the whole Houston Rockets, James Harden, consistent franchise that didn't amount to anything, that went through Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook and
Yeah.
point guard, C through Z to kind of find that. I think it's the same, guy who said, hey, let's give Jeremy Lin a whole bunch of cash. I'm Jeremy Lin. I'm not saying no to that money. You know what I mean? But it was just one of those things where none of it really worked out, man. So poo-poo on you. But let's go to the Doc Rivers math equation. What did I say about Doc Rivers when he was hired 3 years ago? Because the guy was immediately hired. I'm like, Doc is perfect to put a elevation team that's in the season when you're kind of like, we have these good players, but we're kind of fluttering in the water. We're floating and we're about to sink. So let's get in there because he is a great mind. But there's only so much you can do holding on to a single championship, one itty bitty championship. In the NBA, the best coaches are the ones who have won multiple rings. Pat Riley, Phil Jackson, Eric Spoelstra, Greg Popovich, Steve Kerr. Here's the funny part, kids. I mentioned 2 names, Steve Kerr and Eric Spoelstra. In the last decade, those guys have won multiple titles just in this decade, right? Going into or at least appeared in those finals because 2012 is when the Heat started. You got to remember. I keep forgetting we're in 2023 now, so I'm like deducing the age. Kerr's won 4. Spo's got in 2. Everybody else might get that 1 year, but you have no repeat winners. So the bar is set very effing high, man. Very effing high, in my opinion, of what fantastic Rushmore, modern day and past era coaches ought to be. Budenholzer's going to be more, forgive me if I can say this, he's going to be known more for winning as a 1 seed to the Hawks, getting there and getting swept as these Eastern Conference Finals instead of him winning in Milwaukee. Hear me out, because that's how petty we are as a fan base, right? We remember who loses and we remember. Oh, I'm also sorry. I think Popovich they didn't pull off the doubles. They pulled off appearing in 2 finals and then they're out. But yeah, I had to do the math in my head of how it all works out because, some parts miss out. Nick Nurse doesn't count. Nick Nurse is going to be the guy. Well, how's Toronto going to be remembered? Oh, yeah, they had to get Kawhi Leonard. That was it. Poof, out.
Yeah.
Which could be arguable. These are factual proofs. But you're going to see Spoelstra got most. They're going to say, oh, that was the big 3 era. Yeah, but here's the other thing to give the Spoelstra support. He also appeared in the 2020. So that just buffers in. Multiple finals appearances actually matter. You might not win multiple rings, but on the pantheon of the list.
But how many of those guys went back?
Multiple appearances help out. Yeah. Because, Phil Jackson's an anomaly because I don't think he's ever lost the finals when he went to the Bulls level. But even him couldn't win every single one with the Lakers. But he's had, 9 or 10 finals appearances in totality? 11 maybe? So it's still there. Spo, has had 3. Popovich has had 6? 7? Maybe.
Yeah.
I got to come
really,
into it.
They only lost to the Heat.
I feel like I want to give love to Rick Carlisle, but he's not doing good in Indiana. And I can only give so much to Dallas. So this whole thing, and I know what you're saying, but Charles, by that logic, it should be Doc Rivers, right? You should have Doc Rivers, right? Because he won in 07 and they won in 09. No, because you'd never amount. That man has had more Hall of Famers on every team and section he has gone to only come across with 1 win and 1 NBA final appearance with just that one particular team. And here's the thing, I'm going to say right now, Doc Rivers is not going to be remembered as the coach who won in Boston. He's going to be the coach who dealt in LA with all this Donald Sterling nonsense that came in. He can only elevate you to a certain degree to make you look fancy he's a preseason love. But when it comes to playoffs, mathematically he doesn't compute. And you look at what happened. You had Embiid brick everything. You had Harden brick everything. And you had Doc be he always is famous for the meme of laughing what the hell just happened. But that was the station. Tyrese Maxey couldn't get you anything. All the other guys in there couldn't get you anything. And yes, it's unfair that the GMs never get the blame. And it's always the coaches that are scapegoats, but you know what you're getting yourself signed up for. Because remember, the GM's role is not to produce winning teams because you don't coach. The whole thing is to produce winning teams with reasonable expectations to spend money to justify the spending of these people by whom you hire and everything like that. Because if not, we'll just kind of put everything in the dirt and you'll have a hodgepodge of competency like the Minnesota Timberwolves, who have like one star player, bad money spent out, and get to a play-in.
The Wolves are a whole different thing. Yeah,
you can be like the Orlando Magic, which they don't want to spend money at all because they're like, oh, we had Shaq and we had Dwight. They praise themselves on having one single.
No, we got Banchero. He's going to be here forever. And...
But is that not the Magic's MO?
Yeah.
Is that not the Magic's MO? Every damn time, man. Like they don't. Sorry if Andrew calls himself a self-proclaimed Magic fan.
Banchero will be in Lakers uniform in 5 years.
A couple years. Y'all only care about one singular person. You don't hire the right people. It doesn't go from there. You could be like Michael.
How's that going to work for that baseball team? Oh man, Andrew, sorry. How's that going to work for that baseball team that they're trying to make as an expansion franchise?
Well, it goes back to my whole thing.
It's the same guy who was one of the original owners of the Magic. How are you going to do that? Like.
I couldn't tell you, but Doc couldn't get it done.
Anyways.
And I could have told you that. I looked at everything. I never looked at it further. You can evaluate depth all you have, but I don't want to hear the excuses when I literally had a Heat team that has one legitimate star, superstar, megastar, supernova star, and then is down Tyler Hero and Victor Oladipo, and you're putting with dudes that you guys you never had to endure watching Max Struss or shoot up that three, man, and go like 3 for 15. But you're like, but it's what we got. Or Gabe Vincent. You don't have guys who probably would just be on the back nine of the rotation. But we did, because it all goes back to great coaching, of coaching people up. I think Mike Malone is one of those coaches. If I don't get my bubble rematch, give it to Jokic, because wouldn't that be the best middle finger? That y'all went so hard on Embiid. And the year that I'm like, it's not Embiid, right? It's Jokic, and then they go from there. But Doc is what Doc was, a great preseason ranking. Maybe you get to the second, but what I told my paralegal, I think I sent you guys a screenshot, but it's so true. Doc Rivers, the winning pass the second round is Charles, with a Latino with good hair. Weak. Just shut down, man. And because it goes back to the statement, this man has had Hall of Fame talent on every level. Or if you're not Hall of Fame talent, guys who are the best at their position for some time. In Boston, we already mentioned Big Three plus Rondo. In the Clipperland, my Christ, man, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and then DeAndre Jordan. Lob City, and they had other guys. I think they had Eric Gordon, they had Jamal Crawford, they had all these dudes that were just so established. And then you get to Philly, and you get Ben Simmons, not Hall of Fame talent, but what is told to be max play guys. And then you're getting, Joel Embiid, which y'all called him the process. Embiid just won an MVP. If he continues his career in the next 7 years in this capacity, he will be Hall of Fame. You had dudes coming over, want to sign you. You got PJ Tucker. You got James Harden, who will go to the Hall of Fame. Say what you will about Tobias Harris and that he's overpaid, but damn it, I would say Tobias Harris on my roster right now as a body, right? All these guys, and you still can't make nothing out of anything. And then you lost to Boston when it was clear, like that game where Tatum went 1 for 13 the first 3 quarters, and you couldn't capitalize that, and you still lost. It was ugly. I was like, this is the Celtics guy? Jaylen Brown deserves a lot of money, but I'm looking at Jason, I'm like, lights too bright? And I know he ended up scoring back 13 of those pages, 13 of those points, but I'm not going to be like, hey, man, that's what winners do. Winners don't take shots like that. Postseason basketball is about educating your uneducated players of when to take smart shots, of when not to turn the ball over, of when not to foul. There's one coach right now in the NBA, because Petty Train's coming to an end. One coach right now that doesn't. That's Eric Spoelstra. It was never Doc Rivers. In the pantheon of greatness, Eric Spoelstra tops Doc Rivers, and you hate it. You hate it. Why? Because you realize I'm right. You hate it because Spo had the stuff that you guys hated, but Doc was the originator, the progenitor of the Big Three, but we did it better. Doc went to other teams that, 76ers had a Jimmy Butler, not under Doc's reign, but you had a Jimmy Butler, you didn't know how to use him, and we took one star, we made it better, and that's gonna be Philly's problem, because they can't afford certain guys. You want to pay James Harden if he opts out, 4 years, $202 million? There's one coach, almost two, because I'll give Jamal Murray some relevance in there, but we'll call it 2 coaches and leave it at that right now. There's 2 coaches right now in this postseason that could take one legitimate superstar and run the train with everybody else. Spo and Malone. Couldn't be Doc. Doc could not have – here's the thing too, Francisco. I think Morey knows he has to blow it up. I think he knows he has to say no to Harden. I think he has to figure out what he wants to do with Maxey. But he's going to say, I need a coach who can have a one singular guy to lead. Not that requires everybody to lift him up and he keeps them afloat. Because that is the Doc Rivers effect. The math equation is Doc equals coach plus not one, not two, but 3 players equals success. Plain and simple. And he'll be good in 2 years when he wants to come back, because he should take that TV deal to go work for a team that has the mild potential that couldn't succeed. Or, I'm saying it now, the first instinct, I sent it to you guys and I sent it to my other friends, is he's either that or he's going to Phoenix. He's either that or he's going to Phoenix.
Oh, boy.
Because he's either that or he's going to Phoenix. Right? Well, Chris Paul, kind of irrelevant right now. They're also in the
I know, but still.
But you have to think on it, because KD would love that. KD's like, this is a proven guy. KD, his issue with Brooklyn was that Steve Nash didn't know what was doing. And you know what? I believe KD. I believe KD on that, because we know Nash had no experience. And then when it comes to Booker's gonna be like, oh man, this guy has overseen NBA MVP level guys. I got the Supermax contract. He's consistent. Let's do it. They're gonna trade Aiden away, because Doc's gonna be like, I don't need you, because if I'm gonna have you as a center and all that stuff, because they need assets. But Phoenix would be the team, because you literally just fired a coach who has given you level of consistency. Because listen, everybody, listen to me. It's not like Monty went from NBA Finals to not being in the postseason for 2 years in a row. He went to second round each time. That's okay when you talk about stepping down a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But we're so quick to pull the trigger. But they're gonna look at Doc and be like, you know what? Who the fuck wants to put in a 34-year-old, James Harden who's thinking about the strip club and chicken wings? Like, come over here. You can do this. That's the only instinct I can think of because all these coaches that got fired, including Nick Nurse, who we didn't mention because he wasn't in the postseason, they're doing a carousel, man, of like who is the best fit. And I'm really interested in Milwaukee. I'm super interested in Milwaukee, what they're going to do, because the one thing you have to say about Budenholzer is it is not coincidence, because there's only so much of a player having his game as coach actually developing. You have to give coaches credence when they actually develop superstar. Because remember who had Giannis first, who had both Giannis and Chris Middleton? Jason Kidd. And they were not that good of a team. And then in the maturation, Budenholzer helped those flowers bud a little bit and bloom, and helped develop Giannis to be Giannis and Middleton to be Middleton. Nick Nurse is kind of maybe the guy with Siakam and OG Anunoby, how he did. Yeah. Doc ain't the guy, though. Doc never really had guys that he had Rondo is debatable. That he helped craft it because, Doc was a point guard and everything like that. But Rondo was just, you knew where that ceiling was in the offensive scoring, but everything else he just did so well. I loved watching Rondo back in the day. I'm not even going to lie. He was the last grit and grinder of a point guard that couldn't shoot. And then comes like Ben Simmons and they tell me he's the dude. But man, you know what I love about the Petty train, and this is how I'll conclude my.
Ben Simmons was right. Was sipping on a petty wine.
Yeah, but this is how I will conclude the Petty train. The reason why I love the Petty train is because at the end of the day, I'm right, and I've been right. You've been right. You're right about Canada. I was right about Doc, and I'm also right about Heat. Go Heat, Pepas. The very long Petty trade edition.
Oh. NHL, NBA, very rare, and we might hop back on here, hopefully by next week. You never know, but we're just enjoying the ride right now. That's all we're doing. All right, Charles. Well, we're at an hour and 19. I just want to do a word from Ron sponsors, and we just head into the cage after that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Baseball is baseball. It's there, whatever. Yeah. But, all right, word from our non-sponsors, people, places, things, concepts, what have you, that we've been enjoying over the last week. It's The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom for me. I usually, even if I'm in the middle of playing a game, I just know. And Charles, as well. Eventually you'll be doing this for yourself as well. Mm-hmm. But this game, it reminds me once more, because I had that dilemma last month where I just didn't want to play video games. Yep. And I just had the spirit sucked out of me. And there were some games that helped me repair it back. Pokemon Stadium, some little Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis games, the Beyond Blue game on PC. But, oh man, it's back, Charles. The fervor is back. Just 5 more minutes is back, Charles. I'm showing off my stream that I've been doing of the game right now. It's like putting on a glove as well, like with Breath of the Wild. Like suddenly, okay, all the mechanics are back. The controls are great, graphics are solid, things like that. It is beautiful. Just the intuitiveness, the way they set up the tutorial. Like the first part of the game is a tutorial, of course, right, to get you to know his new powers with his phantom pain arm, right?
The Ultra Hand.
Yeah, the Ultra Hand. Another Nintendo reference, by the way. It's just amazing. Like, these are all the ideas they couldn't put in Breath of the Wild. This is like Super Mario Galaxy 2. This is the Super Mario Galaxy 2 of Zelda right now. It's everything that we liked about the first Breath of the Wild, but now it's just better. They just compounding it. One after another, ideas, the fuse powers. I'm having fun with these, Charles. I'm having absolute fun just crafting weapons. And they kind of give you a story reason as to why like all these weapons are all crap and everything to start this game, including the Master Sword. Like it's I haven't started. I've been pushing the story along a little bit last one just because I need to get certain things. I'm already at the Gerudo Desert, by the way.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of did the same thing I did with Breath of the Wild. I'm just trying to get the towers, get to all the towers so I can survey all the land and kind of plot what I want to do from there. I'm doing the shrines. I'm getting a bunch of hearts. That's my focus right now. Before I want to get like 10 hearts before I start focusing on stamina. Mm-hmm. Because of the Ultra Hand and everything like that, traversing the area, you find a lot of clever ways to do it. And I was afraid before we started this, Charles. I mentioned it that man, I'm seeing like all these crazy things people did in Breath of the Wild to kind of move around the world and everything like that. And like I saw the Ultra Hand, I saw the preview with Aonuma doing his thing. I'm like, am I smart enough to think of some of these things?
I can barely say my own name, and God forbid anything that's not Smith, Jones, or Wilson, and then I see that.
But I love the Ultra Hand.
Yep.
In fact, the Ultra Hand doesn't need you to be as smart. If the Ultra Hand allows me to be dumb, Charles.
Yep. Lazy and dumb, and it's great.
I'm looking at these mountains. I was confronted with like one of the towers. Mm-hmm. That I'm like, okay, I gotta get to that tower. But it was a fort for like all the bad guys, the monsters. So I'm like, well, I could just chop down all these trees and just kind of fuse them all together, lean them over like across the spiked barriers and everything like that, and get behind everybody and just kind of sneak into the tower without anybody noticing me. And that's what I did. So the game does, like, the Ultra Hand is beautiful because it allows me to be dumb. I don't have to think of a clever way to take out enemies and things like that. I can just kind of go around them and don't have to really engage with them. But I do like the fusibility with the weapons. I've been using arrows like crazy.
Oh my god, so good.
You got fire arrows, you got bomb arrows, you got electric arrows, you got ice arrows. This is Ocarina of Time all over again with this, and Majora's Mask. It is beautiful. I love that. And the sense of exploration as well is there again. I had a bit of a preview of it when I played Sable, because it was kind of pretty much the same kind of concept as Breath of the Wild. Just explore the open world, and you see a thing, it's like, oh, let me head on over there. And I had that moment, Charles. I was streaming Sunday. I had come back home from Mother's Day, and I came back. I'm like, I'm just going to stream a little bit, play some Breath of the Wild, or Tears of the Kingdom, or regardless, Zelda. And I got home like around 10:30-ish. I got set up. I'm like, I'll play for like a couple hours. I'll play till 1 o'clock, right? Like, okay, everybody, thanks for watching. If you watch this, Tears of the Kingdom, it's great. And it's like, and then I look over, I'm like, oh, there's a shrine like 5 feet away from me. Yeah, it couldn't hurt just to do this a little bit. It's like, okay, I got through the shrine. I'm like, okay, well, I have 4 of these orbs. I might as well go to the goddess statue and just get an extra heart, you know? And it's like, okay, well, now that I have this heart, there's a tower right there. I have a horse. I can just gotta get over there real quick. 45 minutes pass again, Charles. It's 1:45, and I'm like, I have to work tomorrow, so this is the end. Like, that's this game already. I do have to knock it a little bit because, man, the Switch is showing its age.
Yeah, the tech issues.
I've seen some frame rate drops, and the textures and everything like that. If I had to guess, at some, like, whenever the next Switch comes out, which I would hope is next year, this is a good one to, you know, give the Last of Us treatment to. Do a complete remake, with, you know, better graphics. Do the, you know, Metroid Prime remaster. This game deserves a remaster. Heck, even do a double pack of Breath of the Wild and charge $70 for it. You know, like, this is one of those games that, but man, that would require a lot, I would say. But they would probably do them separate and charge $70 for each one of them.
And we would,
I can see Breath of the Wild being released like within the first year, remastered in 4K. I can see that happening. And they're gonna give us Super Mario Galaxy 2 remastered in 4K. That's what Nintendo's is gonna sell us the same old games again. I've been good on it, Charles, holding off a bit, but Super Mario Galaxy 2 in 4K with upgraded visuals and stuff, I would be a resist. Yeah. So, but Breath of Tears of the Kingdom. Whoo! Promo code Zonai.
Yep. How many hours do you think you got?
I didn't check, but you know how on the Switch you can sort your game by your games by playtime. It's already like surpassed like all my playtime on like the Game Boy Advance and the Game Boy, and like I'm catching up to stuff already.
I know I have like 9 already, and I've literally, you know, screwed around.
Yeah,
because I'm about to go get the paraglider from Puerto.
I did the screwing around when I was at my folks' place, and then, but now my mission is get to all the towers, and find a way. And the beauty of this game as well is that
you play your way.
You play your way, and even if it doesn't seem like you're ready to take on a thing, you can find a way to get around it and kind of just force your way to make it happen. That's the beauty of this as well. You don't have to. You can try and go and let me just get some power ups, get some better weapons and things like that. No, you can just be like, you know what? I don't have any clothes of warmth whatsoever, but I'm gonna climb the mountain anyways and just eat a bunch of spicy food, and I'll make it through. Mm-hmm. There we go. That's it.
I will say that I alternate. Even though you can make cool equipment like, you know, ships and all that stuff, I enjoy still riding my horse.
Oh no, the horse is great. I think it's much more, you know,
it's much more to liking. It makes sense. It's good. I just have the harness on him 24/7 in case I want to like build carriages and stuff.
Nice.
But so enjoyable. So mine is kind of flash from past. It's something to do with what I mentioned today. So I have not had really fast food a lot since November. 5 times, you know, have led into it because it's not so much that I don't enjoy fast food. Trust me, kids. I don't plan on making it past 60 for numerous reasons. You know, whether it be because I like my alcohol, I like my caffeine, I like my pre-workouts, I like my video games, and I do like good food. I kind of just stopped doing it, not for health reasons. I'm actually probably healthier now than I was 3, 4, 5 years ago. Not even that. You already got it up, you son of a gun. But you know, it was more or less that the cost of fast
you asked me.
you already know. You already know the cost of fast food with this inflation has just been not justifiable to me. To not be like, why am I paying $14, $15, something where I could just go to Five Guys, or I could just go get an inside meal at a restaurant and take it home. But I had a hankering. I've been you kind of messed with me a little bit because when you mentioned Friday, you're like, I want a Frosty. And I think you were implying from Wendy's, right?
Yeah, so it was Friday. I treated myself. I got the strawberry one, by the way.
Oh, so good. And I'm like, man, I haven't had fast food. And here's the thing. When it comes to fast food, it really dwindled down to 2 of them, Wendy's and Taco Bell. We love Taco Bell.
Yeah.
You know, but I haven't had Wendy's since like November. unless you count like Wendy's breakfast, like one time where I had to go get blood donated, so I had to fast, so it's whatever. But I'm not counting it to the degree. But I'm like, and the thing I've always loved about Wendy's is the fact of how they have variety. Because I go to Burger King, I know what I want out of Burger King. You know what I mean? I don't eat at McDonald's like that whatsoever. If it is because I'm coming home and it's 1 a.m, I'm starving, and I get 2 McChickens and small fry. Checkers we don't touch. Checkers really needs to. We're gonna buy it. You and I have already talked about this. Maybe we have to convince Andrew, to do it as well. But we're going to buy a franchise and we're going to make it the legitimate Checkers, and we're going to change the franchise slogan. We're going to say Checkmate. It's going to be great. And there's some other stuff that we don't do. But I was like, Checkers have the variety. So I drove up there. I was like, I need a burger from there. I need like a double Baconator and stuff like that. I'm going to be disgusting me because I skipped lunch today. I had a protein cookie and a yogurt. That's what was my lunch because I had 1 o'clock court. And man, remember, I think I texted you when I had the both of you when I had like the Fats chicken before 1 p.m. court a couple of weeks ago. It was bad. My butthole was singing and Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairies, if you guys know from the Nutcracker. So that's why I'm trying to be pragmatic. Sometimes you're hungry, sometimes you have to suffer it. It goes from there. But I got to Wendy's and they make great chicken sandwiches and they make very adequate burgers itself. That's all I get from chicken. Yeah, well, the burgers are good, but you have to know which one that's for you. There's some burgers that are not for me, right? Plain and simple. A lot of their chicken sandwiches are for me. I'm just saying that right now. But they have now the Ghost Ranch chicken sandwich, which has ghost pepper sauce with like crumbled onion weeds. And I got the combo. I got that with the fries and a nice, bottles or a nice cup of Sprite. And I should have gone with the ghost pepper fries because, Wendy's fries is inferior. And the thing is, like, that was the stuff that I was eating so imagine not having Wendy's for almost 6 months.
Yeah.
And the first thing I buy is the fries. I'm like, this is kind of shit. I don't have ketchup with me right now. I held off on it, and then when I got to the house, I sprayed some ketchup and a little bit of hot sauce rub. So the fries are there. But that chicken sandwich.
I'm showing off the sandwich here with the Report of the Week, who, of course, he does all the reviews of the fast food.
I give it a nice,
it's a sizable-looking sandwich.
It is a sizable-looking sandwich. It's a nice hunk of meat. And I give it a 7.5 because it's always hard to give something an 8. Well, the last thing that we gave it an 8 was something that you and I agreed upon, and I don't remember what it was. I think it was actually from Wendy's. We'll have to look into the archives. But it was nice. It was tasty. It was hearty. Part of the problem.
We have to do a chicken sandwich tier list. That's what we had to do. That's right. That was one of the plans. Yeah, do that next week if there's nothing like sports like with the.
I mean, if we're talking about retire stuff, it's always gonna be Checkers double Frank's chicken sandwich. You hear me talk about it all the time. It's ridiculous. You always have a favorite thing. Like
it's the Ghost Pepper Ranch. How was that?
So the Ghost Pepper Ranch is not evenly distributed. I'm saying that right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at his sandwich right now. It's like
I think they should have put it under the cheese, but you take a couple bites of it. Depending where you buy, my God, you have the hearty, chunky piece of chicken, and it's nice. And then you got the tumbleweed onion rings. I'm like, this is good. And then you get to the Ghost Ranch, and you're like, oh, this is nice and hot and flavorful, but tasty, but not burning my mouth. But then you get near where it's all creamy, who all the Ghost Ranch is. And I am just downing my Sprite. I will appreciate a fast food for making me have to almost like minorly tap out near the end.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. I would have spread it out more.
Because I remember the hot honey chicken sandwich from a few months back.
That's the one that we were talking about.
That was it, yeah. The hot honey chicken sandwich. And I told you, like, it gives you a little bit of a kick, but it wasn't like, I got to drink some milk.
But we loved it for the flavor.
Yeah, it was good.
Because Wendy's just gets me. So Wendy's also has very good buns. Just saying that right now. Because I'm looking at his hands, like it's not frozen.
I like the shininess and all the stuff. It's it's good.
It's a good grip kind of. It's a hearty chicken. The cheese is always good. The cheese always actually is good. Holy, like Wendy's actually has excellent cheese for a burger or for any kind of sandwich condiment, condiment makings. But it was a nice little kick at the end. And as he mentioned on there, it's only like $9. So I'm like, literally, like that's justifiable. My entire meal was like $11 because I wanted that Sprite, man, because I want to Sprite at the house. But big fan. I liked it. Maybe I can't get it again because obviously I'm going to go off the kilter for fast food, but I had the hankering for it. I knew I needed it. I knew I wanted it. I passed up lasagna tomorrow because I had the craving for it today.
I will say this. If you did have to, and you did it today, but like to break your fast food thing, it might as well be for something that's limited, know?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. There's only one place I know that does limited well, because I love Taco Bell, but the problem is with them is when they do limited and I have it, it's gimmicky.
Yeah,
It's
same thing with
gimmicky, and
KFC.
then yeah, but we love the Colonel up in this ish.
I know.
Offended.
Still.
But so yeah, this Ghost Ranch thing was I loved it. It was good, 7.5. Which, listen, in fast food, if you give anything an 8 or higher, we need to have a conversation. We need to talk to you. We need to sit you down, and be like, can we check your arteries itself? Because if anything is an 8, that's cheap and convenient. I'm gonna get that shit every day, right?
Yeah.
All right. I saw him put the finger up. He's getting to the point where I'm talking about. Where the first couple bites are good, and then you get the creaminess. So yeah, no, it gets kind of hot.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's ever an 8 that we should give for fast food. So the 7.5 is my personal philosophy. That's where we know it's peak. Is it the best thing Wendy's has given me? I don't know. Am I a big fan? He is all up in that chili right now. For those who are listening, this guy is just reviewing and biting into it. I like that he's wearing a suit for this.
He's the report of the week, man. He's famous from bodybuilding.com. Yeah, man.
Yeah, but big fan. Promo code Red Tempest. Red Tempest. That Red Tempest that is Wendy's. Have me breaking my own rules. I hope he liked it. That's the thing. There's nothing worse when you have something and you like it, and how quick we are as human beings.
I mean, he's at the halfway point, so I can't. I'll have to follow up myself. Yeah, but regardless, I'm trying to see the comments if they even mention it.
This man is the Walter Cronkite of
Review Bro is so experienced in reviewing chicken sandwiches that he can detect the capsaicin power level of a sandwich like a Saiyan.
Jesus Christ. I mean, listen, but it was just, I'll watch it myself after the show, but it was that good. I liked it. Thank you, Wendy's, for making me break my fast and be worth it, because there's nothing worse than
$9. Dear Lord.
I'm just saying, man, for a hearty chunk of chicken.
Okay. Yeah. As long as it's hearty. Yeah. Yeah, $9. I can stomach that. Okay, I do before, because I might want to give this a shot.
Sure,
but
give it a shot.
Onions are kind of like my kryptonite.
But it's not onions though. There's nothing to do with onions. There's no onions. It's just it's just a dried up onion strings.
I know.
It doesn't even have onions in there.
Okay, well, I'll see. Alrighty then. Okay, all right. Well then, I guess that's it for that. And baseball's happening. I don't know, whatever. We'll talk about that later. The Marlins won, by the way. Won on walk-off today. That's nice. I don't know what the Yanks are doing. Oh, they're up. They're still up 5-3 right now.
There you go.
And the Mets are losing. That's always great.
And the Lakers are losing 60-47.
Braves are losing. Oh, well, 60-47 is not a big lead anymore in the NBA.
Yeah.
And all right, well, I think that should be enough, Charles. Let's get to the cage. We're at 1:38. It's 9:43. We started late. Let's go.
Yeah, it'll be a short cage though, because I lied as always. So welcome everybody, your weekly Truplex, the Cage with Charles.
Oh, come on, man. Don't tell me I lost it. All right, hold on, Charles. Let me call you back. Hold on. I smack my microphone just a little bit and it loses everything. So I'm going to have to get him back on. Don't worry. We'll be back, guys. This is Sports Goofs. This is what always happens on a live show. We always find a way to screw it up. Don't worry. Be happy. Let's ring that guy back in now. Hopefully he's still on. He hasn't popped off yet. I think he might have.
All right.
All right. Yeah, I smacked my microphone. It lost all connection. So go ahead. Welcome everybody to your weekly Truplex, the Cage with Charles. Ah, shit. It closed again.
Truplex, the Cage with Charles.
There we go. All right.
It froze again? Yes, no, maybe?
We're back. Okay. The Cage with Charles.
One more time.
Men and women chasing championships.
The Spurs won the lottery and they're going to draft Wembanyama. That's great.
Oh, well then.
Yeah, so look at that. Welcome everybody to Weekly Truplex for the 5th time. The Cage with Charles. Remember, wrestling is not fake. It's scripted. It's a stage fight. It's a song and dance. It's poetry, emotion. It's a soap opera. It's about men and women chasing championships, establishing their legacies, beating the holy hell out of each other, and just being there for my pure entertainment. Now, I know last week I said we were going to focus more on AEW. I lied. We're going to actually keep it shorter this week, not for time constraints, but next week's the big one. So let me give you a preview why next week's the big one, Francisco. Next week's Memorial Day weekend. I have not one. We don't have not two. we have tres wrestling pay-per-views. 2 of them WWE Night of Champions in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia on Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
2 on Sunday competing against each other, NXT Battlegrounds on Peacock. And then AEW's Double or Nothing. So, as you know, both those cards are not finalized, so we're going to kind of front the information there because the cards are not finalized itself. I think we might have to actually...
Can't really speculate or anything like that.
Yeah, well, you can and you can't. And the thing is that I've been kind of lax on AEW a little bit. I know what I'm following, but the thing is every time... Because their pay-per-views are only like 4 times a year. So I try to be fair and actually go to talk about... you know me, if there's anything I am, it's incessant to look through YouTube and catch up on all the promos and watch the TV shit and go from there. You know, what I will tell you about AEW is the storylines I am following, and that's essentially the 4-pillar storyline for the AEW World Championship. But I don't know what's going on with the women's division right now. It's kind of weird with Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker going against the Outcast because they've been delaying that for so long. It's badly done. I don't know if what they're doing Jade Cargill in the TBS Championship or not, if they're going to defend it. The TNT Championship, right now we got Wardlow versus Christian, which is great, but Wardlow had just beaten Powerhouse Hobbs, and I was kind of against that. I'm like, what are we doing? Are we keeping Ring of Honor separate from her? Are we going to put it on Double or Nothing as well? Because even though it's 2 separate entities, business-wise, it's cross-blended very heavily. Plus, this is also leading to Forbidden Door, which is going to have AEW versus New Japan. So I want to see if they're laying the pepper trail for that too. So I got to give you guys an in-depth analysis. Y'all don't need an in-depth analysis for WWE. You know what I'm talking about, man. You really know the highlights. I kind of mentioned a little bit, so I might go to focus. But I'll start with AEW first. So yeah, Double or Nothing's next week. Last year's Double or Nothing was the CM Punk Hangman Adam Page that led to Brawl Out. Everything happening from there and the disaster cases that begin with, right?
I still need like a full-on summary of that entire saga.
Well, the problem is it's not concluded yet until they bring back Punk. Because remember, all right. I'll start with the points. A year ago, CM Punk beat Hangman Adam Page for the title, and he got injured. And then that's where they had the interim championships, if you remember correctly, with John Moxley winning the interim, and then him and Punk went at it, and then Punk lost on a Dynamite episode, and then the following week with the Power of Chicago, he beat Moxley, and then he had the media fight between him, his homeboy, the Dog, versus the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. And then everybody got suspended for some time, leading to everything. And that kind of what led to the issues. But CM Punk is a draw. He makes too much money. There's allegations that WB wants him back because that's who's kind of like the daddy for the AEW funding, because that's who owns Warner Bros. Discovery owns TNT and TBS. They are trying to put in a 3rd show now. They canceled AEW Dark and AEW Dark Elevation that was on the YouTube shows. That's why I mentioned a couple weeks ago. So right now they have Dynamite on TBS. They have Rampage on TNT, that's on Fridays, and now the rumor is that on Saturdays they're going to bring back Saturday Night Wrestling, which is kind of weird because they have pay-per-views, right? And the thing is with sports, you're on TNT and TBS, and they have a predominant amount of hockey, basketball, and baseball, so a lot of things are going to be preempted to other time slots on Saturday. It just feels like a bad setup, you know what I mean? They're going to have something called Collision, I think is what's called. Are they going to do a roster split? Or are they not going to do a roster split? Because I don't give much deference to the dirt sheets and what's said on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter, everybody. FJOGR, Charles True, Dan Frihole, Sports _Goofs, and then all that other fun jazz. And then Marlon's historian and Panther historian.
Jazz got injured.
Gaming site.
He's got turf toe.
Again? Jesus.
No, it was first time. But still,
I mean, he got injured again.
Yeah.
That's no bueno. But yeah, follow us on the Twitter. But it's interesting because, look, sometimes on AEW, I get some good-ass quality matches, man. It's just so good on television. Thank you. And then sometimes I just get storylines that stagnate, like the Social Outcast, which is Paige, Tony Storm, and Ruby Riott versus Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, all these people, Hikaru and all that. I'm like, okay, what are we doing here? It's a little bit of a headache. So I have to dive deep in. I think FTR is defending the AEW tag titles against Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. I'm not really crazy about that, to be honest with you, coming into it. But hey, they do what they can. We do what we can, right? It's just interesting that they lead into. But I will figure it out. I will find out. I will develop, I will learn, I will build into it for you guys because I can find myself a way to be invested. Because what matters more about Double or Nothing, aside from what I had mentioned, that I've been following the Four Pillars pay-per-view storyline, I have also been following the Blackpool Combat Club, which consists of obviously Bryan Danielson, who we love up in this ish, Claudio Castagnoli, formerly Cesaro, John Moxley following Dean Ambrose for those who want to like cross-reference, and then Wheeler Yuta versus the Elite, which is Hangman, which is if Hangman comes back, Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson. Don Callis just betrayed Kenny Omega last week in a steel cage match versus Moxley. So Callis had been there as Kenny's boy for so long, and then he just interferes and stops, Kenny from winning, just stabs him. I think I sent you the video of like Kenny doing the V-trigger knee kick that pushed him to the cage. I don't know how that man did not hurt his genital area. That hurt me, but I'm interested in that one. So those are stories, but I need to get more on the big ones. But it could lead to a good thing. It's not going to be a pay-per-view I buy, but it'll be a pay-per-view I'll probably talk about. Remember last year's Double or Nothing, I was at the Hard Rock being starstruck a little bit. So, I gotta come back into the game of things here because that was when the Heat lost to the Celtics and everything like that, and other things that happened at the Hard Rock. And I'm like, this is all happening in one night. This is too much. WWE side, the next week's pay-per-view, Jeddah. Remember, they're trying to establish a new World Heavyweight Championship, and the finals are going to be Seth Rollins versus AJ Styles. I think Seth wins that one. They'd be silly not to give it to Seth. Remember, they create a new championship. I don't know if I've shown you those pictures. I've gotten you that live reactions. Part of me likes it. Part of me doesn't like it. I think it's because of how the WWE logo is in there, and I understand everything has to be branded because it's your brand name, but I felt like the gold belt should be bigger. I think it depends. I have to actually see it worn by somebody. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's in between. Now, a Champions card is building up. They've had a couple extra matches that are on. Trish Stratus versus Becky Lynch. That's going to be a fun match. It's actually been a driving feud without a title being involved, and that's fantastic. We talk about Becky being the man. That's her moniker. I think she's really helping build there because the women division under Triple H has kind of suffered when there's not a title involved. And even when there has been a title involved, it hasn't actually been excellente. Sorry. Gunther versus Mustafa Ali is going to happen. That should be a banger. We love Gunther. He's probably my reigning favorite WWE wrestler right now because everybody, if you want to know, I don't have a favorite wrestler. I have all the programs. I don't have favorite companies. I don't have match of the years in totality. I separate it. It's the best way to do it. Makes your life easy. You stop the arguments. It makes tracking easier. Like if you gave me a favorite AEW guy, I think it's got to be Bryan Danielson. I love that guy. I loved him when he was Daniel Bryan WWE. I love him what he's doing there now. He gives me bangers. There's a lot of people that you can like, but WWE wise, Gunther is that. The man just looks like a Bond villain. I love him. He gave me the triple international meat palette. He literally powerbombed a guy onto his boy and beat him. I was like, oh man, that's just so good. Here is the newly announced match, and I wish it was Andrew was on the show because you know how much he hates Roman Reigns. He hates the idea that bad guys are winning, and you know me, I'm just like, I love it because it's a soap opera with what's going on in the bloodline. Roman Reigns, the Usos, and Solo Sikoa. So as you know, the Usos were the tag team guys, right? They lost the titles at Mania. They lost them to Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. They had a rematch a couple of SmackDowns ago, and they lost. And Roman came back on Friday. Roman's been gone for a month, and essentially he says, "Y'all are bitches, and me and your brother are going to handle it." So instead of Roman defending his Universal Championship, WWE Universal Championship, I guess as they call it now, even though there's a World Heavyweight Championship that's being fought for, he's going to challenge Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn for the tag team titles. And for everybody was like, Jesus Christ, no more belts. I'm like, listen, this is a bigger story than you guys can expect. Because what happens is that if he loses, the Usos are interfering in some way, shape, or form. If he wins, we're going to get him and Solo versus the Usos at SummerSlam. And it gives the World Heavyweight title a big opportunity to feel like the real deal and not as the secondary title or a consolation prize. I'm for that, even though at the end of the day, the World Heavyweight Championship is not going to be as big because it obviously was created to avoid Roman, but I'm here for the soap opera drama because you guys were on that journey with me with Sami Zayn for 10 months, and you saw how great the connection was. And the international crowds have been hot. Puerto Rico, thank you. Yeah. I can't say it enough. Thank you for being around because Backlash was a good time. We're getting a Cody Brock rematch there. God damn it, I just don't care. They ruined Cody. And what's so weird when we started the whole show and everything, you always hear me get the shout outs to Cody and AEW because I admire him. I just don't like how he's been handled in WWE. He doesn't have much of a say into it, obviously, but they should just put the belt on him at Mania. That was the big disagreement that I had with it because this whole thing is like him beating Brock because Brock was just covered in blood, and I think Brock's going to win this one. And then they have a few other matches that they'll go for, but they have to build it up a little bit. Like they have to put the two women's styles in there. It's a very bloated weekend for me. next weekend because Memorial Day weekend. I want to play Zelda. I have to see people. This is hell month for me anyway because everybody has a birthday. My mother's birthday is Friday. Shout out, Mama, love you. And then I have friends' birthdays and stuff like that. So I gotta give money to people, and then you're gonna ask me to watch pay-per-view and not celebrate people's. I don't know. At Memorial Day weekend, I'm like, is Tears of the Kingdom more important than Cody Rhodes? Yeah, kind of. I think Cody would agree. He's a fellow gamer. Hell, Cody, tell us. Follow us on the Twitter. Follow him on the Twitter. I still like him. It's just that's the problem with your wrestlers. When you like them, they're not being booked well. You get complaints and grievances. But at the end of the day, I'm not a show writer. If I want to play fantasy booking, I can play WWE 2K22 or 2K23. Right? It's on sale. Go buy it now. But wrestling is good. It stagnates a little bit because we were looking at it where you have the pay-per-view now, then you have Money in the Bank July 1st, I think, and then or it's in June. No, there's no June pay-per-view. So July, the first week of July, near that July 4th weekend is that pay-per-view, and then you have SummerSlam in August. So there might be a gap. Raw has been watchable. I did watch it yesterday because I couldn't play Tears of the Kingdom because I was going to stay up because I had court, but I was watching that. So it's been good. They're integrating stories. They're making titles feel matter. If anything, I'm just going to give the shout outs to Seth Rollins for keeping it interesting, as always, for Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus, which I think have great bangers that they can do coming up in this match at Night of Champions. I think the feud will continue. And then Roman kind of gave it the shot in the arm. I don't know who defeats him. I still think it'll be a Cody at SummerSlam. I think the plan is he's going to win the Money in the Bank briefcase and cash in after Roman beats somebody at SummerSlam, just to kind of be like, well, you always played with an unfair deck. I'm going to play with an unfair deck and win. But next week is going to be the very bloated part of the cage. But I stuck around. I'm catching up. I'm going to be catching up some things. I'm sending you guys a lot of obnoxious stuff that's coming into it, as I always do. But, tune in next week and find out. That's all I got for you this week on the cage.
All righty. Okay, well, it's late, but we finished. We're done with the petty train. It was great, Charles. It was fun. And, yeah, that's it. I don't have much more to say. See y'all next week.
Take care.
Sports Goofs is over, get out of here, go do something. Or at least a week, then Charles and Drew and Francisco, you crave and seek Taco Bell time.